Yo, 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 what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is WeedMan 420 with the WeedMan 420 Chronicles. How all you burners, stoners, and potheads doing out there? Mrs. WeedMan, how you doing?
Doing well. Can't complain.
You are complaining because you've been complaining all day how cold it is outside right now in Illinois.
Yeah. I think that's very justifiable. It's freaking freezing.
It is so cold out right now, and it's only going to get worse how cold it is. Mrs. Weedman's been walking around with slippers, blankets, heavy clothing. She's been trying to bundle up, and our house is warm, but Mrs. Weedman is always cold.
Yeah.
She had to go do her essential work this morning and go out in that cold, and I waved. See you when you're back.
Thanks.
So it's cold here in Illinois. It's cold in the Midwest period right now. It is wintertime, of course, and this is how it is. But boy, we haven't seen this kind of cold in a few years. I mean, this is going to go on for a couple weeks here. So everyone stay warm, bundle up. Don't get hypothermia, and don't be don't be one of those to get that frostbite on the nose. So make sure.
And if you're people who live in warm places, F you. Well, not really. I just am jealous.
She's very
really jealous.
So
invite me over.
Mrs. Weedman's going to light up this bowl when we get started. We're smoking some of our own OG grown here, homegrown, called Berry White from our first grow here, and we still got some of that left. And I tell you what, some of the stuff that we've been smoking that's been curing 6 months now, it's gotten stronger, better. We've been smoking some of the lemon berry, which has been really nice. Our new stuff is done curing. It's on its 5th week of curing right now, so we're going to start smoking that soon. That's the stuff from Wes, so I'm super stoked about that. We've been smoking that all along, here and there, a little bit, just to try it out and see how it's going. But I've given it to some friends, some burners, stoners, and potheads that these guys and gals are wake and bakers all day, all night, and they've given me some thumbs up. So I'm super, super stoked about the new batch and how it came out, and just I'm enjoying it. It's been my zen growing. Mrs. Weedman, pass that bowl over, will you? Well, I get to smoke while you say hello.
And I have to say, it's so good that our parakeets are even like attacking it.
They want to eat it.
Obviously, we don't condone giving your pets cannabis, but our little birds are like little junkies. They're crazy, right? Vega comes down here and like runs across the rolling tray and tries to get in there, and then if there's like a bowl set up, he's like trying to attack it.
He likes the weeds.
It's like, get your beak out of there, dude.
We have given him some seeds before. He
Yeah.
does like the seeds.
Yeah.
If we ever find a seed in some stuff we buy from the dispensary, we'll give him a seed. He'll chew on that. We've also given him hemp seeds before. He likes that. That's not bad for parakeets. So as you know, Vega's famous. Everybody loves Vega. So, but we have been growing our own stuff. We got the new stuff in the hopper. It's called Majin Fajita. If you're an anime fan like myself, it's looking real good, going on its 4th week on Sunday. It'll be 4 weeks. It is now in the 3-gallon pot. It's actually, it amazes me how cool it is to watch that every day that plant grow, especially in the first 3 weeks. It is just every time I bring Mrs. Weedman down to the tent to look at the plants, it's just like, wow, look how much they've grown in a day. The leaves are really starting to form now. It's got seven leaves to it, so I believe it's an indica dominant strain that we picked up from Ghost Genetics, and I'm super stoked to try this in about probably April. Hopefully it's ready to go on 420. That'd be kind of nice.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be dope. So super excited, but we're gonna get the show started. First one is the lives of Weldon Angelos and Parker Coleman Jr. highlight painful process of prison reform. And we are a big advocates for the Last Prisoner Project here, and we try to fight for nonviolent cannabis victims here on this show. So I'm going to read this to you. It's from High Times Magazine, and I just want to read this to you because I feel heartfelt about people who get arrested for low cannabis crimes. So cannabis continues to be a tool for arrest and incarcerations across the United States, which is an issue that the nation is just beginning to address. Despite the rise of legalization in most states, scores of individuals remain locked up for largely nonviolent offenses. Often so-called offenders receive lengthy sentences composed of questionable allegations, charges stacking, and mandatory minimum sentences. In doing so, people are torn from the families and communities, often for decades at a time, and if not their entire lives. President Obama and Trump have taken steps to expunge, commute, and grant clemency to several cases in recent years, a sign of progress for the nation. Their actions do not take from the fact that thousands remain in prison for cannabis, and even that when released, the toll taken on the life of the individual and their loved ones is often irrecoverable. It's just that one, those 2 paragraphs right there says it all about this article. I mean, when someone gets out of prison for a low offense, it's still on their record. They have to put it down on job applications. They were arrested for a felony, so it does affect their lives. Plus, if they have families they haven't seen, kids, this is very trying to the whole family just in general. American drug war statistics, and we've talked about this in the past, but I'm going to read some new data. Drug arrests continue well into the green wave of cannabis legalization, despite reform efforts gaining traction across the U.S. in the past a few years. The troubling scenario follows recent data. In 2015, small amount possession arrests outpaced violent crimes. Pew Research Center reports that the arrest continued into 2018. That year, 4 in 10 drug arrests in America came from cannabis, with 92% of bookings stemming from possession. All the while, black people and other minorities continue to be arrested at a higher rate than whites committing similar offenses. The Drug Policy Alliance reports that black people made up 27% of the drug law violations in 2017, despite representing a little over 13% of the American population. DPA also noted in 2016 saw 450,000 incarcerations for drug law violations, which helped push the U.S. prison population to 2.3 million, the highest in the world. I'm just going to throw something out there about prisons in the United States. They're run by companies, most of them. So it's all about money and getting more people into the system, because then we put our tax dollars into them and they take that as profitability. Just saying. To put the figure in context, Luxembourg's roughly about 613,000 citizens could make up the U.S. prison population almost 4 times over. Poof. Signs of a positive change have come about. Pew reported in 2020 that the prison rate is at its lowest in 2 decades, marking a 34% decrease since 2006. However, Bureau of Justice Statistics data highlights a disparity that continues in the system, with 1,501 black prisoners for every 100,000 black adults as of 2018. It's pretty rough. The lives behind the statistics, the release of Weldon Angelos. Statistics are just one aspect of ongoing prison epidemic grabbing the nation. Behind those figures are thousands of lives and millions affected over the course of the decades-long drug war. For some, their records have received revisions after spending years locked up. Others remain in prison, with some holding on to their last few chances for a change of fate. Salt Lake City native Weldon Angelos received a commutation of his mandatory minimum 55-year federal sentence from President Obama in 2016, after serving 13 years. In 2020, President Trump granted him a full pardon. The reversal of fate came after years of lobbying from advocates and influential figures like Snoop Dogg, political analyst Van Jones, and Utah Senator Mike Lee and Koch Industries. While the presidential decisions changed his status and arrest history, nothing could replace Angelo's loss over what was essentially a couple $100 pot deal and allegations of a gun being present over the course of 2 transactions. The allegations of a gun turned Angelo's case. He was charged with 20 crimes, carrying a 105-year sentence. The jury would convict him of 13 drug, firearm, and laundering charges, netting him a 55-year mandatory minimum sentence that even his judge did not support. Crazy. Sentencings would be individualized in some sort of fashion, where the judge can take into account unique factors of the individual, because not everyone's alike, said Angelos. He added that not everyone comes from the same background or privilege where other career options are possible. The sentence cost Angelo his budding hip-hop production career, which saw him working with West Coast rap elite Snoop Dogg before his conviction. His incarceration led to his relationship with his mother and his children ending over a decade separated from his then 6 and 7-year-old sons. Sad. I missed the chance to raise my son, said Angelos, who also saw his father pass away just months before he can get his release. He was not allowed to attend his father's funeral services. Today, Angelos is advocate for sentencing reform as part of Weldon Project Endeavor. In addition to assisting the incarcerated, Angelos and his group fought for passage of the First Step Act in 2018, which addressed a series of sentencing parameters, including lowering mandatory minimums. Good for him. Good-looking young man, too. The fight for freedom continues. I'm going to take a sip of wine real quick before we go next. Salute,
Cheers.
Mrs. WeedMan. Salute. We're drinking a Sauvignon Blanc today. Very fancy.
In honor of our kids, it's a fine 2017 vintage from the Seattle area. I think
Chateau
Saint Michel. Very fancy.
Very fancy. It's not very fancy.
I think it was $10.
It's actually very good.
It's good.
It's very good.
It's not like overly sweet, not overly dry.
It's crisp.
It's
That's
nice.
the word I was kind of looking
Crisp.
for the first time we tried it. 'Cause remember I said it tasted like sparkling? The word is crisp.
It was not sparkling, right?
I thought it
know,
was,
right.
but
Crisp.
now it's crisp. That's a word that I think wine drinkers use when a white wine is like that. So
That's good.
I think I know a little bit.
It's a
I don't know.
tasty
I'm
wine.
starting to feel the weed too, so it's
Yeah,
kind of nice.
I know, right?
The goal is to have this is for a gentleman. The fight for freedom continues with Parker Coleman. The goal is to have every incarcerated cannabis offender freed, but the prospect of release can look rather bleak for many. Like Angelos, many sit in prison on charges that were far from clear-cut. Parker Coleman Jr. is one of those individuals. Incarcerated since 2010, Coleman Jr. is serving a 60-year sentence. Coleman Jr. was sentenced in North Carolina and currently resides in Beaumont, USP, in Texas. His charges include conspiracy to dispute cannabis and money laundering. He was also charged with a gun crime. Through advocates argue was never on the person during any deals and that the gun wasn't registered to him. His supporters include his parents, Parker Sr. and Tracy, an advocate Cherie Sicard, who called the ruling a de facto life sentence. In a blog post, Sicard stated that in the entire case, only one person got caught with 26 pounds of weed, and that one person was not even on Coleman. Coleman's 21-person indictment, she added. Out of those 21 people, Parker was only acquainted with 2 of them. Coleman Jr. family, a military veteran, father, thank you for serving, and nurse's mother, and Sicard are joined by supportive like Kyle Kazan, CEO of cannabis brand Glass House Group. Kazan, a retired law enforcement officer, was inspired to take... interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. A retired law enforcement officer selling cannabis. Interesting. Which mostly centered... You do the thought on that one. Which mostly centered on policing and sentencing of black individuals like Coleman. He noted the disparity between himself, a white male, and Coleman's case, noting he makes millions in revenue while Coleman's life wastes away in jail. Parker is doing hard time more than 10 years now, said Kazan. Describing fellow inmates inside with him, Kazan said he got 50 to go with rapists and murderers. Kazan added that Coleman's previous cannabis possession convictions, nor the debated gun charge attached to his current sentence, gave him pause, saying he thoroughly read the case file and is convinced Parker should be pardoned. In January, Kazan's company sent a letter to President Trump seeking a pardon for Coleman. Coleman's parents, who live in North Carolina, touched on the pain of not seeing their son, with the hurt extending to his family that includes grandparents in their 70s, one of whom is on dialysis. My father was on dialysis. It's not very nice for the body, and it's not very good to be on dialysis. The pain can be felt by Coleman Jr. himself, with his family, saying that he has not seen him since he was moved to Beaumont, USP in Texas. In the 5 years he's been in Texas, the Colemans say just one friend has been able to visit. That's sad. His parents' last attempt to see him came while he was incarcerated in Kentucky, a 5-hour drive from their home. They went on lockdown, recalled Tracy Coleman, the day they went to see Parker, so that was a 5-hour they had to turn back around to go home because they were on lockdown. And it was physical pain on her husband was the apparent during the trip. The latest attempt to release Coleman was unsuccessful, as President Trump did not include him on the list of pardons and communications. For his part, Trump did not include 12 additional cannabis-related prisoners in the last list of pardons before leaving office. So those looking to help release Parker Coleman and one nonviolent cannabis offender should contact their local state representatives and research advocacy groups to volunteer to donate to the cause. The Last Prisoner Project, Families Against Mandatory Minimums, and Cage-Free Cannabis are all included in the fight. Mm-hmm. That's pretty big. And for those 2 gentlemen, you know, we're shouting you out on this to hopefully other people will listen and contact their representatives, especially Mr. Coleman. Hopefully this can help and reach out to people that are in your community and where you live and fight for you to get free for something doesn't seem like you did, and there's people fighting for you. So good luck to both of you.
Well, on that note, though, too, like we've been watching this program on Netflix. It's called Inside the World's Toughest Prisons.
Yes.
And Raphael Rowe is an ex-con. He was from England and was sentenced for murder, served a life sentence. 12 years into it, he got himself released.
It was
he was found not guilty.
Not guilty. After 12 years.
Yeah, after 12 years of time in maximum security with murder, like real murderers and every make and model of criminal.
Yeah.
And so now he is out exploring the globe and going to like the world's just
Some of those prisons, man. Holy
craziest
smokes.
situations. And, you know, our problems here with our prison system, not reforming people, it's universal. Like, no jail seems to have it figured out. There was one that was, I think it was Norway, and they do a lot of reform, and it was really cool.
Basically, they were living in like
They lived better,
a college
though, than,
dorm with kitchens,
Yeah.
and they got to work. And
Jobs, they come out with skills.
Right.
They do like breakdown therapy, like full immersion therapy to get these guys to like, they have to speak about the crimes they committed. Anyway, I'm getting off the subject. The point was there were like almost every one of these prisons that are like insanely intense, right? Have holding patterns. Like their judicial systems are so poor and inundated and slow that these people could have like, you know, a bud of weed, depending on where they live, and it's completely like zero tolerance. They go to jail, and it's years of sitting in holding cells with like literally with murderers, just every bad criminal that could possibly be. And you've just got this guy who had like a joint in his pocket, and he's going to sit there for 2, 3, 5, 7 years
crazy.
before he even has a trial. He's not even found guilty, and his life is completely ruined. Ugh. And like we're talking about like bare bone standards, like they're just sleeping on dirt floors or a block of concrete, walls of concrete, not a window in sight, maybe 50 guys in a room that's, you know, 30 by 30. Like no privacy. Like, I mean, where is your mind after that? Like if you came in there and all you were was a dude walking down the street and you had a joint in your pocket, and now next thing you know, you're in prison for 5 years, and now you've spent 5 years living in these like intolerable conditions with nothing.
Yeah.
Squalor. Right? And no communication
Toilets
with
not
family.
working.
Nothing.
I mean, no
I don't
food.
care who you are. You're going to come out of that a different person.
Yes, 100%.
Your life is
Same
like,
thing in the prisons
yeah,
here in the
it's
United
just
States that you don't. It
shit.
was funny because when he was in one of those prisons, one of the prison mates knew he did time already.
Right.
They say
They
it
say
changes.
you have a different look. You
different
look at
look.
people differently.
Yes, you are always looking for the bad situation to happen. Yeah, it was strange. So a lot of prisoners in the United States or convicted, not come out hardened. They come out totally different because it's survival when you're in there. And here's a thing: Chuck Schumer, the head of the Senate, urges cannabis reform in meeting with the Attorney General Pick Garland and other DOJ nominees. All right. We've talked about the MORE Act. We've talked about the Senate going to approve. We talked about Democrats going to get it legalized. You know what? There's more than just to legalization of cannabis off the federal one. You have to get people out of prison. You have to drop all charges of them because there's tons of companies right now making billions of dollars and millions of dollars in cannabis, and many of these people in prison or getting in trouble, or they need to fix that. That better be in the whole entire thing. If someone's got a gram or an ounce on them and they get arrested and they do 5 years for an ounce when you can just buy an ounce at the dispensary now.
Yeah, and they've had no other crimes on their record. They've done nothing. Right. That's it. First offense. And
there's been some states that have expunged records and taken them off, which is great. But it has to now start coming from the federal level. It's time to do it right. Schumer and everybody else in the Senate and the House, make it right. I don't even need to talk about anymore about this article because we've talked about it enough. I don't care who does it. Just do it and get it done. But don't rush it. You should have people that are in the prison system talking about this. You need lawmakers from different states talking about this. You need to make sure that you do this right on all levels. Get it off the schedule. Get it off the federal one. Just put it as a plant that's grown. Yes, it has to be monitored. Yes, there has to be standards. We know that. But you have to just fix it and get it done right. Leave the states alone that are doing it. Fix the tax rates and don't overtax the federal government because then the states are going to tax it more. And it's already out of control in some states. Fix it. I'll move on. Get off my soapbox for right now. And I'm really.
I think your
really
weed
big.
is thinky weed.
It is very good.
Right?
Weed. Oh, this is the berry white. This has got berry.
Not
in
cloudy
it.
thoughts. Pretty clear.
No. You know what berry does to me, don't you? The berry strains. It makes me talk.
Start singing
and dancing. USDA raises THC limit for hemp eradication to 1%. That's pretty cool. Right now, it has to be only 0.3%, but to eradicate now, like if it's at that 1% level, it's going to not have to. That's pretty awesome. So I'm pretty excited about
So
that.
up to 1%.
Yes.
Can be grown as hemp.
Yep.
Or CBD.
Yep. Here's some big news from last January to this January. This year's sales in cannabis in the state of Illinois is $121.5 million in January. Flat from December.
Wait, 1 month?
1 month. Flat from December, though, because December is a big month. It's the holidays. People are spending money. They're buying their friends weed and family, and here, try this, whatever. But it's up 94% from a year ago. Crazy. It's cold outside. It's getting colder. You probably went maybe like Thursday or Friday if your dispensary had some sales in Illinois and stocked up for the next 2 weeks because a lot of people are working from home and they ain't going out. So unless you need groceries or something like that. But now you can order online groceries and never leave your house. So if you really don't want to leave, you don't have to. So that's pretty crazy. Illinois just smoking the COVID away. I love it. You know what does my heart good? When companies volunteer and the employees come out and volunteer, and they come out and do it at heartfelt. It's something they do for the communities, food drives, cleaning up communities, building gardens, whatever. I think it's great that the employees set this up with their HR teams and it's done, and people are happy to go out and do it. There's a cannabis company. It's based out of Illinois, but they're one of the largest. And Mrs. WeedMan is going to talk about what they've done in community service hours. It's been great. Yeah,
and you keep saying the word community, and that's really the cannabis culture is community, right? I mean, it's just there's just a cannabis community. So anyway, Chicago-based Cresco Labs announced that their employee participants of the Make a Difference initiative volunteered more than 5,000 service hours since the program's establishment in June of 2020. So this initiative was started by Cresco Labs, and now they're helping communities thrive from cannabis culture. Cresco says it started the initiative last year as a public statement in response to the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and others. In 2020, the team participated in more than 75 volunteer activities that supported more than 50 community-based organizations.
Wow.
Yeah. As stewards of the cannabis industry and good corporate citizens of this country, we have an obligation to use our considerable platform to promote progress and support the communities where we work and live, says Cresco co-founder and CEO Charlie Bachtel. This is the fundamental to our vision of being the most important company in the industry and the responsibilities that such a vision requires. While the global pandemic did bring some challenges to volunteering, Bachtel says that Cresco team members persevered because corporate social responsibility, volunteerism, community support, social justice, and social equality activism are part of the fabric of our company. Over the 7 months since the program's inception, Cresco Labs employees volunteered in 28 cities in the states of California, Arizona, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and New York.
That's a lot of states.
Yeah. They collaborated with institutions focused on veterans, food insecurity, social justice, COVID-19 relief, mental health, environmental conservation, homelessness, low-income families, and people with disabilities. Volunteers packaged and distributed nearly 10,000 pounds of food, donated toys for the holiday season, and picked up more than 100,000 pounds of trash at parks, beaches, forests, preserves, and canals. Yeah. The teams also collected and purchased clothing and personal care items for people in need and sent hundreds of letters to cannabis prisoners, elderly people, and others in need of emotional support. We are so proud to have such passionate and hardworking staff who contribute their time, expertise, and funds to this initiative, says Cresco VP Ty Duncan. They truly make a difference, building meaningful relationships along the way. Cresco is committed to continuing this effort in 2021 and beyond. Cresco says that it designs its corporate social responsibility strategies with a commitment to serving communities in which they operate in a way that aligns with the company's goals and values. So yeah, pretty cool.
That's-
5,000 hours.
that's a lot of
over
hours.
7 months.
7 months?
Yeah, sweet. I think we talked about them. They were part of our gift giving. We talked just before Christmas about good like cannabis gifts to give, and we said that they were doing a lot of volunteering, so
Yep.
they'd be a good company to go shopping.
Yeah.
And buy.
I mean, it's
So-
good to see large corporations give back to the community, the communities that need it to help out. It's awesome. Good work.
Yeah.
5,000 hours is a lot of hours
Yeah.
for 7 months.
Super sweet.
To people to take their time out of their own lives to give back to the community.
But what's very cool though too is that we talk about this all the time, that cannabis has gone corporate. So if it's going to go corporate, you have to give back to all of these areas and people that were negatively affected by the war on
Oh, yeah.
drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's, in a way, they're doing that through volunteering in impoverished areas and in areas of
Yeah.
need. And
That's awesome.
and writing letters to prisoners. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So keep it up, and like we love hearing that other companies are doing the same.
Yep. Alabama Senate committee approves medical cannabis legalization bill. Weren't we just talking about Alabama not too long ago, like really not doing anything with cannabis, but just
Yeah.
arresting people? They arrested that poor young man,
Yes.
Worsley, Mr.
Yep.
Worsley, that was from Arizona, I believe, and then got busted going through
Driving
Alabama to go to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
War vet. So now they're going to approve medical cannabis through this legalization bill. They better, before I even talk about it, what they're going to try to do, hopefully they get it done, is Mr. Worsley. If they make this medical and legal in Alabama, you need to be expunged of everything. And I'll say that on record right there. So Alabama, if I have some listeners there, just telling you, if you do this, you need to be held accountable for what you did to that young man's life.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to say about that. Key Alabama Senate Committee on Wednesday approved a bill to legalize medical cannabis, sending it to the full floor for consideration. The legalization introduced by Senator Tim Melson would allow people with qualifying conditions to access cannabis for therapeutic purposes. It cleared the Senate Judiciary Committee 8-3 after a very brief discussion and now heads to the full chamber. Well, we'll see. To qualify for the program, patients would have to be diagnosed with one of about 20 conditions. A lot of states do that. They start off with 20. Illinois started off with 13. Remember that? It was like next to impossible to get a card, including anxiety, sleep disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, intractable pain. Regulars would not be able to be independently add additional conditions, leaving decisions up to the lawmakers. They're going to screw it up. Advocates say they encourage the medical cannabis reforms in advancing in Alabama, but they have raised concerns about a number of aspects of the bill. One problematic provision, they say, is that patients with chronic or intractable pain could only be recommended medical cannabis in cases where conventional therapeutic intervention and opiate therapy is contradicted or has proved ineffective. The bill also prohibits raw cannabis, smoking, vaping, and candy or baked good products.
So how can you use it then?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Patients would instead be allowed to purchase capsules, lozenges, oils, suppositories, and
So you can't have an
tropical
edible, but
patches.
you could have a
You
tablet.
can stick something up your ass.
Stick it up your ass.
You can stick something up your ass, but you can't get the pure
Stick it
form
up the ass of
flower.
whoever made that stupid law. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh Lord. Come back. Come
I
back.
don't even want to talk about this
back.
article. I don't even want to talk about the state of Alabama right now because that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is why some people just can't be lawmakers at all. Just should.
Like, did someone think that was funny?
I think it's funny
I
as
think
hell.
whoever wrote that law thought they were a funny guy. Who
Holy
is it?
smokes.
We're gonna find out who that funny guy is.
We just want you to
I
stick
think we should have
pills
him
up
come
your
on
ass.
the show. Hey, funny guy, come and talk to us about that.
Oh my gosh.
See how you like it. You want to smoke or you want to thing up your ass?
Oh my God, enough. I'm having a heart attack,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen.
Come on, moving on.
I know I'm having a heart attack though. I gotta get my breath. Anyway, Idaho Senate passes measures to block cannabis legalization. Of course they would. They're so not against it, even if voters approve it on the ballot. If the voters approve it, they want it. Idaho, and I like your state. It's beautiful too. You could probably grow really good weed with that soil and farm. Oh my God. Anyway, New
Make
Mexico.
good potatoes.
Yeah. Russets, baby. New Mexico senators filed 2 cannabis legalization bills with more on the way. Good for you, New Mexico.
What kind of
And
land does Idaho have?
It's
Potatoes grow under the ground. Would cannabis grow there?
Yeah, great dirt.
Just the Great Plains? No, where are the
No.
Great Plains?
Mrs. Weedman's not the best with geography.
Hey,
she can
hey,
read a
yes, I
map.
am.
You can read a map
You can't get me lost anywhere.
anywhere. You don't even need navigation.
That's right.
I know that for 100%.
I've been there.
But
I remember being
your
there.
geography
I
of
can get
knowing
you there
where,
again.
like, you could,
Right?
You could,
That's
100%. So it looks
That
like
would be the topography.
topography.
Yes.
What does it mean?
Like the elevations of the land. Like if you were to like dissect a profile of the land at any point, you'd see the hills and the valleys and the creeks and the waterways and the trees. Well, not the trees because they grow. I'm talking about land elevation.
Gotcha.
Topography.
Gotcha.
So what's
getting
But
schooled
you know what? Now
by
that I think
Mrs.
about that,
Weedman.
I think topography would not decipher what kind of land they have. I want to know, like, do they have flat, open, like when you drive south in Illinois, it's just freaking flat.
Yeah,
it's
but
just flat.
they got good soil to grow corn and
Right,
soybean.
that's what I'm saying. So is that
Idaho
what-
got good. If you
I'm
can
gonna
grow,
look. I'm
you
gonna
can
look.
grow.
Right. Do like potatoes grow in the hills?
I have no idea. Mrs.
These are the
Weedman.
things I wonder about.
For all you stoners, burners, and potheads out there,
Like,
I bet you there's what Mrs. Weedman is experiencing right now, because she does think like that a lot. There's probably a lot of you out there that do.
do you remember, like, as a kid, Mr. Rogers would go to the factory and you got to see how something was made?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the best. That was it. It was like, okay, I'm good now. Thanks, Mr. Rogers.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It is.
Got to see how pencils were made. Don't you ever wonder about that shit?
Sure.
There was never enough of it. I wanted more.
Go watch old Mr.
I think
Rogers.
I was supposed to be an
neighbor.
engineer.
Virginia voters support legalizing cannabis, and new poll as lawmakers rapidly advance bills. Yes, we've talked about Virginia. That's awesome that they're going to get this bill in the docket, and let's go. Here's something crazy. New York, pot tax to go higher as weed gets stronger. Ugh, Cuomo.
We're going to tax on THC.
Cuomo. You just trying to I know what you're doing. You're going to take that tax money, hopefully, and use it to what happened with COVID.
Hey, did they ever figure out if his nipples were pierced?
That's his brother.
Did they ever figure out if his nipples were pierced?
I don't know. I think they did.
I think he wore that shirt on purpose.
Probably. I think his nipples were
In
pierced.
case anyone's wondering, look up Andrew Cuomo's brother, who is a senator.
No.
No?
He's a news anchor.
No, that's not the one.
There's Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Governor Andrew, who had the nipple rings.
Oh, it was him?
Yes, it wasn't his.
Oh,
the other
his,
Cuomo,
his
who's
brother
the
got caught in the
newscaster.
mirror fixing his
Yes,
hair
he
in
was
the
fixing
elevator.
himself. Yeah, I think was he naked?
No.
Oh,
So I guess Andrew Cuomo's got his nipples
he's
pierced.
got his nipples pierced.
Oh,
he had
God.
yes, he wore
So-
a shirt like where you could totally see.
So
it.
what they're
Okay.
going to do in New York is they're going to be raising the tax 0.7 cents per milligram of THC content. That's crazy. It's a lot of money. Washington State cannabis home grow bill draws smooth reception at initial hearing. Great for you, Washington State, and be able to grow your own cannabis soon. Just like Mr. Weedman, it's the bill HB 109, and it's been relatively low key. Most questions from lawmakers focus on the minor details, such as how home grow would compare to home beer brewing and whether landlords should make it able to prohibit plants and rental units. I mean, yeah, that's if it should be up to the landlord. So, so that's cool, Washington. Hopefully you pass that bill and you can grow your own cannabis. I think it's been one of the best experiences of my time in COVID, and it's been my zen. So hopefully you get it. Arizona recreational cannabis sales begin weeks earlier than expected. Arizona, let's go. Get that weed a-flowing, baby. Some of my favorite people that I used to watch on TV. One of my favorite boxers of all times. He was not just a boxer; he was just an everything to a lot of people in this world. Muhammad Ali, and then Back to the Future, great movie. Michael J. Fox. Both had Michael J. Fox is still alive. He has Parkinson's also, but Mrs. Weedman did some research on Parkinson's disease and reports of cannabis use.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if any of our listeners have seen any videos, but there are like captivating videos of people having severe symptoms of Parkinson's, shakes and tremors and like twitching because it causes your muscles to tighten and spasm. You see somebody who's medicated with prescription medications and they're still having all of these physical reactions or responses to the disease. And then you see them take like an RSO, right? Like a Rick Simpson oil, high THC, high CBD, super concentrated. They take a drop of it. And then like within minutes, you just see their body like physically, visually like changing. It's insane. And everything calms. And they're still having the little tremors, but they're so much less. It's just search YouTube. I mean, they're out there. It's amazing. So actually in Germany, more than half of cannabis-consuming Parkinson's patients reported experiencing clinical benefits. According to the results of a survey conducted in Germany and published in the Journal of Parkinson's Disease, more than 8% of Parkinson's patients, that's a lot of P's, 8% of Parkinson's patients reported using cannabis to mitigate symptoms. Pa. I'm sorry, this is serious. 8% reported using cannabis to mitigate their symptoms, and 54% of those 8% benefited, and they felt a clinical benefit. So super
That's
sweet.
good.
Yeah. So in Germany, patients can acquire THC-rich medicinal cannabis products with a prescription when other conventional therapies are unsuccessful in treating their condition or not being well tolerated by their bodies. Cannabinoid, CBD products are available from pharmacies and internet sites without a prescription. Lead investigative professor Dr. Baumann says that Germany began permitting medical cannabis in 2017 when approval was obtained for therapy-resistant symptoms in severely affected patients. He stated, Parkinson's patients fully fulfilling this criteria are entitled to be prescribed medical cannabis, but there's little data about which type of cannabinoid and which route of administration might be promising for each patient and their symptoms. We also lack information about the extent to which the Parkinson's community is informed about medical cannabis and whether they have tried cannabis, and if so, with what result. Baumann's team conducted the cross-sectional questionnaire-based survey with members of the German Parkinson's Association, reportedly the largest group of patients in German-speaking countries, with approximately 21,000 members. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. Investigators distributed surveys at their clinics and included copies with their membership journal in April of 2019. They focused on assessing patients' perceptions of medical cannabis and evaluating the experience of those already using it. Analysis of 1,300 questionnaires revealed a strong interest in medical cannabis, but a lack of knowledge in product types. 51% of respondents indicated that they were aware of legal medical cannabis, and 28% knew about administration methods such as smoking and edibles, but only 9% knew the difference between cannabinoids. Baumann, why can't I get that name right? Baumann.
You're booming.
Baumann, he's booming. Baumann says the data confirms that Parkinson's patients have a high interest in medical cannabis treatment, but lack the knowledge of the difference between THC and CBD and how to use them. Physicians should consider these aspects when advising their patients about treatment with medical cannabis, says Baumann. The data reported here may help physicians decide which patients could benefit, which symptoms could be addressed, and which type of cannabinoid and route of administration might be suitable. According to Baumann, cannabis intake may be related to a placebo effect due to high patient expectations and conditioning, which could be considered therapeutic. Because really, I mean, if it makes you feel better, it makes you feel better, even if it's just
in your mind,
through mental.
Yeah. Your mind works
right?
in mysterious ways, and it's stronger than most people use it for.
Yeah. And more than 40% of users reported that medicinal cannabis helped them manage pain and muscle cramps. More than 20% reported reduction in stiffness, freezing, tremors, depression, anxiety, and restless legs.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. According to patient responses, inhaled cannabis products containing THC were more effective in treating stiffness than oral CBD products that were slightly less tolerated. 65% of patient non-users showed interest in using medical cannabis, but reported a lack of knowledge of its use and fear of side effects and reasons, and like that was basically the reason they weren't trying it, because they just didn't have the knowledge.
Well.
While findings indicate widespread interest in medical cannabis among Parkinson's patients, Booman says that they come from subjective reports, and he really feels that clinically appropriate studies are urgently needed. So, yep. Pretty interesting.
I faded out for a second there.
Did you forget what I was talking about?
No, I knew what you were talking about, but I faded out because I took a second hit, and I faded out, and I started thinking about suppositories going up my ass, and it scared the shit out of me.
Could you imagine? I'm sorry, sir, but you'll never be able to smoke again. If you would like the feeling of euphoria that comes with smoking cannabis.
It was very interesting what you were talking
this
about.
Up your butt.
Oh, God.
You're like, ugh.
International news. Scotland to adopt regulated cannabis market. Pretty cool.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said Scotland to adopt a regulated cannabis market.
Oh.
And
They're not legal at all?
No.
Or medical?
No. A group made up of police chiefs, figures from the criminal justice system, and members of the intelligence service and military are calling for Scotland to adopt a legal, regulated cannabis model. On the 19th of January 2020, the Scottish branch of LEAP, Law Enforcement Action Partnership, was formally launched. It is now calling for Scotland to adopt a North American-style model. Yes. Adopt Canada's way first. They're totally legal. Just start with them and then work your way down. It would allow legally regulated cannabis to be sold in shops and cafes. Ooh, I like that. LEAP Scotland is made up of a team of criminal justice professionals from current and former police judges and prosecutors. The main goal of LEAP is to educate the public. I love it. The media and policymakers to the failure of current drug policy by presenting a true picture of the history, cause, and effects of drug abuse and the crimes related to drug prohibition. Together, they have used their combined knowledge and expertise to campaign globally for nearly 20 years to advance drug policy and criminal justice solutions that enhance public safety. That's pretty cool. In 2019, 1,264 people in Scotland died from drug-related deaths, up 6% from the previous year. Scotland's drug death rate was higher than those reported in the EU countries and was approximately 3.5 times that of the UK as a whole. Ooh, that's crazy. They're calling for change to sleep. I think it's great. Maybe they adopt what North America did, start with Canada, move your way down. One of my favorite people from Scotland is Ewan McGregor, Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love you. New Zealand ends annual cannabis eradication. Well, that's good because they're so up and down with cannabis. I mean, the New Zealand law enforcement officials have ended the country's annual cannabis eradication operation, choosing instead to focus on combating more harmful substances such as methamphetamine. Yep. Go after that speed. Leave the weed alone. Thailand. Strange brew, medical weed cookin. Thailand's government is treating for free thousands of patients suffering from cancer and other illnesses with until recently legal, sorry about that, brew of cannabis boiled in coconut oil. We do that all the time. We make coconut oil infused cannabis. It's great. We can use a lot of stuff for it. Mrs. WeedMan makes a lot of edibles with it. Oh, so good. I like rubbing it all over my neck when it hurts too. It feels really nice.
That was almost sounding like it was going creepy.
You guys thought
You're
so,
good.
huh?
You're good.
Daicha Siripatra, who says a mind-reading Buddhist monk helped tweak its recipe. I love it. Can learn a lot from those monks. Daicha also teaches the public how to use cannabis oil themselves and teaches them how to make it, which is easy as cooking soup on a kitchen stove. Yeah, it is. We've done it. An agricultural expert, Daicha is now government licensed to make, prescribe, and distribute his now popular Daicha oil to the public for common or serious illness. It wasn't easy to get licensed. In 2019, Thailand legalized medical cannabis, but not recreational or unlicensed use. That's good, though. I think it's awesome. Good for Thailand. We want to go there one day and rub coconut oil on my neck. Japan's
Okay, back on track.
I'm going to take a sip of water while we talk about Japan's hemp business wants to distance itself from image of narcotics. Pretty good, Japan. We don't get to talk about you much when it comes to cannabis, but that's awesome. Our friends over the big great pond, British hemp company launches in Wiltshire to unlock crops' potential to help UK hit carbon target. All right, UK, making more moves. Just got to make it legal. Here's something sad. Our friends, our Rastafarian friends in Jamaica are facing cannabis shortages.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We better send some over.
I know, we should, as farmers struggle. They had a lot of rain.
Like back in the 80s, all the cocaine that washed up on Miami.
That didn't come from Jamaica.
I know it didn't, but I'm just saying. We could
all
kind of
the
just
bales
drop
of
some
cannabis.
bales of cannabis on their shoreline.
We got enough of their
Right.
bales and everybody else's
Right.
bales, so we should bail them out with some cannabis.
Jamaica. That was Cuba or Colombia. Drop it.
Jamaica is running low on ganja. Heavy rains followed by an extended drought, an increase in local consumption, and a drop in number of cannabis farmers have caused a shortage in the island's famed but largely illegal market that experts say is the worst they've seen. Now, Jamaica is medical now, but it's not recreational. It's a cultural embarrassment, said Tristan Thompson, chief opportunity explorer of Taikaya, a consulting and brokerage firm for the country's nascent legal cannabis industry. Jamaica, which foreigners have long associated with pot, reggae, and Rastafarians, authorized a regulated medical cannabis industry and decriminalized small amounts of weed in 2015. Heavy rains during last year's hurricane season pummeled cannabis fields that were later scorched in the drought that followed, causing tens of thousands of dollars in losses, according to farmers who cultivate cannabis outside of legal system. It's destroyed everything, says Daniela Bozra, who grows cannabis in southwest part of Jamaica, in a historical village called Ankampang, founded by, I don't know if I pronounced that right, I'm sorry. Founded by escaped 18th century slaves known as Maroons. Worsening the problem with strict COVID measures, including a 6 p.m. curfew that meant farmers couldn't tend to their fields at night, as is routine, said Kendrick Wallace, 29, who cultivates 2 acres, nearly a hectare, and accompanying with the help of 20 other farmers. Wallace estimated he lost more than $18,000 in recent months and cultivated only 300 pounds compared to the average 700 to 800 pounds the group normally produces. Activists say they believe the pandemic and losing of Jamaica's cannabis laws has led to increase in local consumption that has contributed to scarcity even in the pandemics. Well, yeah, because they're not getting the yield they need to supply. It's supply and demand now. So anyway, the government cannabis license authority, which has authorized 29 cultivators and issued 73 licenses for transportation, retail, processing, and other activities, said there is no shortage of cannabis in the regulated industry, but farmers and activists say weed sold via legal dispensaries known as herb houses is out of reach for many, given that it still costs 5 to 10 times more than the cannabis in the street. You should just make it rec, please, one day. Jamaica, we're feeling for you. If there's anything... wish we could ship it over to you. That's for sure.
If there's anything we could do for you, let us know.
There's nothing I can do.
Paper airplanes.
Something.
Try.
We send love and major clouds to Jamaica, and hopefully our good vibes make it there to grow your crops better.
That's right.
So that's the best I can do. But if you're ever in the States and I could throw you a nug, I'm your guy. Mr. WeedMan is going to college again. We've talked about me going to my local junior college to take cannabis courses. I've taken 2 so far. My next one doesn't start till March. It's about cannabis law in the state of Illinois and also federally. But more and more colleges are adapting to the growth of the industry and going to be offering stuff. Mrs. WeedMan did some research for us, and she's going to talk about majoring in marijuana, cannabis. They should change that. Majoring in cannabis, majoring in ganja, majoring in weed, majoring in pot, majoring just in something, but get rid of the marijuana. Go ahead, Mrs. WeedMan.
Yeah. So I laughed when I read this article because our daughter went to school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is, the Midwest, the great Midwest, farm town, right? And so they have like a full school of agriculture and cultivation and all these things farming related, right? Dairy farm and whatever. And so I said, hey, cannabis is becoming a big industry. Go to agriculture school and learn or get into the field of cannabis. But of course, at that time, that wasn't an option. The courses just weren't.
Yeah, and
there,
that
right?
school has a great greenhouse there.
Yeah.
They do a big grow agriculture thing there, but they don't teach cannabis.
Maybe they do now. Maybe there's something.
No,
but anyway, There is a instructor, or actually she's a curriculum development expert. Her name is Dana Milstein, and she was trying to create a program for the University of California, Riverside's extension program, focusing on cannabis, which would be the first of its kind at a public university in California. And because of federal laws and because of the nature of cannabis, there's just a lot of workarounds. There's a lot that she had to do and a lot of research that she had to do to try to put this program together. Just 4 years ago, graduate students at universities across Southern California were being told they couldn't do research projects related to cannabis because administrators were worried that any link to the field of cannabis might hurt the school's federal funding and its reputation. Today, University of California, Los Angeles, their San Diego campus, and their Irvine, California campus all have dedicated cannabis research centers.
Good for them.
Yeah. Still, though, it's not common for universities to even offer extension courses related to cannabis. And it's even less common for colleges to give credits for classes. And UC Riverside is doing this. So, as of today, the nation's cannabis industry supports an estimated 250,000 full-time jobs. According to a 2020...
Say again? How many jobs?
250, 250,000.
Wow.
250,000
Good
jobs.
for cannabis industry.
Right? According to a 2020 report from Industry Group Leafly, that with recreational cannabis legal in 15 states and medical cannabis legal in 34 states, and a chance that it can soon be decriminalized or even legalized at the federal level, a move that would dramatically expand the money and jobs flowing into the industry. So the schools have to kind of like regroup and figure out how they can incorporate this curriculum, right? So this woman, Dana, is part of that. In late 2019, the trends prompted Eric Latham, Director of Program Development at UC Riverside's Extension Program, to consider adding cannabis coursework to the school's catalog as a way to help area residents find good-paying local jobs. With the legalization of cannabis, it just seemed like an opportunity where our program might fit into a need that people might have, Latham said. The idea wasn't a hard sell to UC Riverside administrators. Latham said school leaders saw the same potential he did. And no matter how people feel about cannabis, he said, the reality is that it's just a fast-growing industry. It's in everyone's interest that we have people who are well-trained and who know how to run cannabis businesses. A handful of universities outside of California offer degree programs that touch on cannabis. Since 2017, Northern Michigan University has offered a bachelor's degree in medicinal plant chemistry that includes discussions of cannabis. I guess that'll probably evolve, right?
Yeah.
As time goes on, it won't just be discussions of, it'll be a program focused on.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the school I'm going to is a 10-course or an 8-course program to become a bud tender, a retail specialist. But, I mean, it's 3 cannabis courses. It is Microsoft 360, 2 business courses, retail marketing, and retail specialist.
So it gives you useful skills.
Yeah.
This program, the Medicinal Plant Chemistry program at Northern Michigan University, has grown from 10 students in the first year to 325 students in 2020, according to the university spokesman, Derek Hall. When Latham started investigating cannabis coursework, he said he didn't find any examples of a public university offering cannabis-oriented continuing education, which are typically non-credit classes aimed at professionals who want new skills to help advance or make a pivot in their careers. Given what a specialized and rapidly evolving field cannabis is, and with few academics who had expertise in cannabis, Latham quickly determined it would be a challenge for the university to create its own program from scratch. So last year, UC Riverside became the 3rd university in the country and the first in California to partner with a private company, Green Flower, to develop and teach its cannabis classes.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So back to Dana Milstein, who is this curriculum developer. She didn't have any work-related experience with cannabis. And 3 years ago, Green Flower had asked her to help create this rigorous cannabis program for universities that would hold up to accreditation review. But she did have a personal experience that made it appealing. Right around the time Greenflower had contacted her, Milstein had started using CBD, a non-psychoactive compound found in cannabis, to help treat her autistic son's social and speech difficulties. Her experience researching her son's needs left her willing to help the cannabis industry develop in a thoughtful way and become more credible to the general public. So she got to work creating the education program that since August has been used at UC Riverside. Students can pick from 4 6-month courses that focus on the business, agriculture, health, or laws and policies of cannabis. And all of the programs include a crash course on the history, science, and legal status of cannabis, including a unit on social justice. 9 universities have now partnered with venture-based Greenflower, according to Daniel Khalif, the company's vice president of higher education. University of San Diego was the second California school to come on board, and recently, Khalif said, University of California Riverside became the first to offer university credit for the program.
Wow.
Yeah. 75 students have enrolled at UC Riverside's program so far. Latham said the student body is about evenly split between men and women.
Sweet.
Yeah. While most students are ages 25 to 40, 13% are older. Many students taking the courses didn't want to be identified, saying they still worry that any link to cannabis, which remains federally illegal, might carry a stigma if they choose to work in a different field. On January 30th of 2021, Lily Lopez, who is part of the first group of students to take classes through UC Riverside's extension program on the cannabis industry, said she hopes to have a business cultivating cannabis to help people with mental, physical, and spiritual healing. I haven't seen anything like this, said Lopez, who completed the business program and next wants to enroll in the agricultural track. I want to take this information I've learned and really use it with a purpose to help the rest of the world. So far, the course in agriculture is attracting the most interest, with nearly half of all students enrolling in that program. One hurdle to bringing cannabis courses to universities is financial, because the feds, right? Mm-hmm. Federal aid for right now might not be available for students because cannabis remains illegal at the federal level.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy, right? That hasn't been a problem for UC Riverside, though, because their extension program is self-funding, although the students are paying for the coursework out of pocket. Other schools offering cannabis classes have found different workarounds. At Colorado State University, Pueblo, they offer an accredited cannabis biology chemistry degree program. University spokeswoman Haley Sue Robinson said students only work with industrial hemp, a type of cannabis that doesn't have any mind-altering effects and is legal under federal law. There's their workaround, right? Yep. Students in Northern Michigan's University's plant chemistry program only work with trace amounts of cannabis in the lab, which Hall said doesn't pose a problem for federal aid or funding. Northern Michigan University hasn't been able to arrange internships, though, with cannabis companies due to the federal status of cannabis. Since the UC
that state should definitely have some colleges doing some major because you can become
Michigan?
A caregiver.
Right.
That state should definitely have somebody should
even
have
if it's at the community college level.
Something. Yeah, right? That state definitely because of what they can do there.
Yeah. Since UC Riverside's extension program isn't federally funded, Milstein said cannabis internships shouldn't be a problem. But some of the school's plans for internship and externship programs have been put on hold due to the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, Khalif said more universities are using Greenflower programs. The company also is looking to add new tracks such as criminal justice focus, and interest in cannabis higher education continues to grow. UC Riverside's next extension program starts on March 1st. So anybody in California.
Sweet.
And it is online classes, so it's possible you can even take it from out of state.
Yeah, we've talked about, taking courses and trying to, if you're out of work right now and you can go back to school or, if you want to get into the cannabis, it's just going to make yourself better. And, the bud tender course I'm taking at Moraine, some things I learned in life, and I was thinking about what Mrs. WeedMan was going to talk about, and I'm going to give you some fatherly advice, some advice that was given to me, not only just by my father, but from other people, mentors and coaches and people I looked up to in my life. Life's not fair, get used to it. That was drilled in my head back in the late 90s, early 2000s to the mid 2000s, and it always stuck with me when I heard someone say that. Life's not fair, get used to it. Also, it's not beneath any of us, if you're out of work right now and you can get a job in a different industry, to go work in a different industry.
Get educated. Yeah.
You
Take
gotta-
this time, study,
If
research,
you in this
learn.
last year of COVID, you had a year to better yourself, whether you were working from home, or you were out of work, or you were just
Scaled back with your
Scaled back.
workload. Yeah.
in that year of 2020, you should have bettered yourself. And I'm not saying some people did. They said, and I read an article that they said that the millennials, or the age of, let's not even call them millennials, the age of 15 to 25, that generation, or that 10 year of age from 15 to 25, is going to be the biggest entrepreneurial generation we'll ever see ever. They are so driven to be successful, but on their own.
On their own terms.
Right. And what we just saw in what these young men and women did in the stock market, they shook up the world. And I watched it. I was following it. I didn't buy in some of those stocks, and I'm going to talk about some stock buying in another article and some other time of the show. But you out there shook up the world. I mean, people were panicked.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading. I mean, I was on Reddit. I was on Reddit Wall Street. I was on everything you could possibly read. I was watching CSNBC, stocks. People were shitting their pants. And good for you. If you took part in it and you made money at it, and then you all got screwed because you shook up the world. Don't be afraid to shake up the world. Don't be afraid to move on from something you went to college for that's not working out, and you have to pivot and go a different direction. You got to do it. Take the shot and go for it. All you 15-year-olds to 25-year-olds, you fucking shook up the world, and I'm so proud of you for doing it.
Well, and here's the thing. They didn't overwork us. They just, oversmarted us. Because they're not a generation that's going to get wealthy from working really hard in the manual, physical labor sense. They're using technology, social media. Social media is probably the biggest thing. They're smart. That's work smart. It's minimal effort for the largest return. Hello, who doesn't want that?
I mean, Paulie and T and Dovboy and I watched these kids grow up in the neighborhood we live in since they were 7 years old. When they all went 6 years old, and we were all going to school together, watched them play sports. I'm on a text thread with them because of WeedMan 420, and we game and stuff like that. And I listen to what they're talking about, and it's talking about stuff I wasn't talking about when I was 25.
We were not talking about that stuff when we were,
I mean, they're talking about buying into this stock. Mr. WeedMan, go into this one. Do that one. You should take a look at this. Read that. They're getting my mind working right now, and I'm 48 years old. And I'm amazed at what I'm seeing out there. Don't be scared to pivot. And remember that line. Life's not fair, get used to it. If you learn that and you can overcome that, you'll win in life and move forward as all of us, not as the cannabis community, not as a nation, as humanity. Because we all can make money, and we can all live comfortably, and we can all pay our bills, and we can all feed our families, we can all enjoy some life and not be stressed all the time. It'll be a better world for everybody. And I've been thinking a lot about this since we did that last episode about Madison Davis. And her mom Melanie wrote something very nice on our Instagram feed, and just it made me think more about life. And you only got one. You only got one shot to do well. You only got one shot to learn and grow and be a good human being out there. And I know I'm kind of preaching right now, but I'm trying to tell you something. This 2020 for me, as bad as it was a good year to learn and grow as a human being.
It was very introspective.
Use your time, because we're still in this period where things aren't getting back to normal right yet. We're seeing it very slowly with the vaccine and all that stuff. But use this time to your advantage. I learned to grow cannabis. I learned about cannabis more so than ever before It's not beneath you to go take a job that for right now to pay your bills, but use the time that you have when you're not working to grow into something else that's going to make you a better human being. The U.S. cannabis industry is going to hit $41 billion by 2025, and this is why I'm trying to tell you. $41 billion is not a joke. Be a part of it. Learn, grow, do something with it if you're interested. If you're not, you're not. I'm just saying $41 billion.
That's projected by when?
2025.
Yeah, 4 years.
By the New Frontier Data, Cannabis Data Analytics, and Business Intelligence Provider released a new report regarding the future of cannabis industry. The projections following the 6 more states, Arizona, Mississippi, Montana, Jersey, South Dakota, all those other coming on, and then there's more coming behind them now, going into 2021, Virginia, New Mexico, Texas is talking about it, Alabama with their fucking ass fucking shit they're talking about. They're all going to be coming on and making money.
The Alabama ass fucking shit.
Jeez. What are they called? Epidurals? Jesus.
No, that's in your spine.
Oh, that's in your spine. Sorry, folks. Alabama screwed this whole show up.
They really did.
So, what I'm trying to tell you...
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. $41 billion is no joke. Be a part of it. Make some money. You make $100,000 a year if that's your goal. If you want to make $250,000, you have to think smart. Those 15 to 25-year-olds out there are doing things different. Okay? Learn from them. You taught them what you could. All us old-timers, our Generation Xers, and you boomers out there, you want to make a little money? Everyone's investing in cannabis stocks right now. Here's what I'm going to say about that. I read some post on some feeds, and some people were saying maybe we should do to the cannabis industry what people are doing to GameStop and AMC and all those companies, Nokia, American Airlines, there were Bed Bath & Beyond. There were so many that were just hitting and missing. Here's what you need to do. Take a look. You have to learn. You have to read. Just don't jump on everything just because you read it and it's just from a post. You have to learn. I have a couple of cannabis stocks. I listen to some of the boys and about what they're investing in, and I took some money, I put some in that, and I put some in this. What you have to realize, it's not about the short term, it's about your long-term play and pivoting to what your long-term play is. So if you're going to invest in cannabis stocks, you are investing in that company. You are taking 100 shares, let's just say, you buy them for $1, you own 100 shares in that company. You now have an investment. You just helped that company put money into growing more, hiring more people, getting a better facility, growing their square footage. You are investing to one day, hopefully that company grows big enough to where you get dividends paid to you, where you can make 0.5% on your money, and they pay you quarterly on dividends. That's what you want. You want long-term investment. Short-term's fine if you can keep up with it, but most of us can't. We can't keep up with the daily trading. You want long-term investments. But do your research. I'm not going to give you anybody who I'm investing because if I lose money, that's on me. You do your own investigating. Talk to a financial advisor. Talk to somebody that can help you. I hear some of these young kids right now. Paulie's had a financial advisor since he was in the Marines. Okay? This is what I'm trying to tell you, people. Learn and grow every day. Talk to a financial advisor. Ask them where you should put your money at. Should you invest it in a Roth IRA? If you're young enough and you want to put money away for retirement when you're 65, or if you want to retire sooner, or maybe you want to play the stock market, you take some advice from people that have been doing it for years that you can trust. That's all I'm trying to tell you. I like the stock market. You can make some good money long term that could be used for your retirement or used to open up a business one day. Maybe you make $100,000. Put it this way: if you bought 10,000 shares of either Google, Microsoft, even Facebook, whether you like them or not, if you bought 10,000 shares and you paid for it when they were $10 a share, you'd be a millionaire today. Just take a look at it that way. Yes, my math is correct.
Okay.
So, if you bought shares in Microsoft in the 80s and you bought 10,000 shares at what that $10 a stock, whatever, you'd be a millionaire. And you'd be able to live off that residual for the rest of your life and invest it in yourself to learn and grow every day. That's all I'm saying. With cannabis stocks, they're fun. I'm looking for the long term, not the short term. So just my friendly neighborhood Spider-Man advice. I remember back in high school when we were smoking, and we were smoking some good. From back then, it was decent weed, and people around us were like, "Oh, stop smoking. We're gonna get high." Well, I never believed you can get high off a secondhand smoke, but I remember like the young freshman boy that would be around us, and he would smell it, and be like, "I'm gonna be high now." Well, so
How did he say that?
I'm gonna be high now. So anyway,
So his voice didn't crack. Remember, you used to
not
say
yet.
that? Like, his
Not
voice
yet.
didn't crack yet.
So
Or
Miss-
drop? No, his balls didn't drop. His voice didn't crack.
Anyway,
Does that happen at the same time?
Sometimes.
Okay.
They might
Like,
go,
is that why the
they
voice
actually
cracks?
might- no,
Because
they
the
actually
balls
might-
drop?
They actually might go inside, and your voice cracks. Anyway,
That causes that?
sometimes. Mrs. WeedMan's going to talk about secondhand high and contact high.
But I won't talk about it like this. Hey, so what do you guys think? Like, do you think you could just be in a room with somebody and they're like smoking and you're like, oh my God, I'm high now? Or do you think that's just like a bunch of shit, right? I don't know. Everybody has their own theory on it, right? But everyone's heard the term contact high or a secondhand high. They've even incorporated it into plots of films and TV shows. We've all been at a concert, whether it's outdoor or indoor, and there's people smoking weed all around you.
I just asked him to pass me
Right.
a joint.
Right? And you might walk away feeling a little lightheaded even though you never took a puff, right? But really, honestly, this can be concerning for people who fear having that exposure to secondhand smoke. Can I get contact high? Because some people's jobs like rely upon them having a clean urine test or drug test, right?
Yep.
And some companies or state, federal, city type jobs, you get tested randomly. So it's important to know whether secondhand smoke can actually get you high or enter into your system. So back in 2015, a whole 6 years ago, Johns Hopkins University did a study, and actually the answer is both yes and no. Researchers started with 12 people. And when I first read this, I'm like, well, fuck yeah, of course in that situation, everyone's going to be high. But
Hotboxing that shit.
Right. So 6 cannabis smokers and 6 non-smokers in this first experiment, all 12 subjects spent 1 hour, get this, in a small, unventilated room, during which time, I'm blown away by this, each smoker, so 6 smokers, went through 10 high-potency joints. Who could even smoke 10 high-potency joints in 1 hour?
We smoked 26 in 10 minutes on a bus one
How
time.
many
Remember
people,
that?
though?
There was 30.
This is 6 people.
That's pretty good.
6 people. They each went through 10 joints. So each person had like 60 joints. How could you not be high?
Well, yeah.
How could you not be
How
high?
big was the room?
It just said a small, unventilated room. So I'm thinking like 12 by
you're-
12.
Yeah, you're going to
Bullshit.
get baked.
Everybody's baked,
Yeah, everyone's
right?
baked. It's like
Right.
just taking it.
Okay. And
blowing it
each
in your
joint
mouth.
was 11.3% THC. I'll have you know.
11.3?
Yeah.
That's not that high.
Well,
not for now. Not for
10 of them
today's.
in an hour?
Yeah, but not for today's potency.
I think I'd be puking. Afterward, anyway, the non-smokers reported feeling pleasant, more tired, and less alert. And sure enough, their blood and urine tests did come up positive for THC.
Okay.
Okay. The second experiment repeated the scenario, but in this time, the room had ventilation. The non-smokers in this experiment said later that they felt hungry, but you have to note that the study finished up around lunchtime. But none of them tested positive for any noticeable amount of THC.
So it had ventilation.
So same room, same
Yeah.
size room, same amount of cannabis being smoked, but ventilation, so airflow, right? Researchers concluded that being exposed to cannabis smoke under extreme, so this is where I was like, okay, so they did know that this was ridiculous. These were extreme conditions. It can indeed give non-smokers a contact buzz. Outside of that very limited scope, though, any secondhand effect you might feel around cannabis smoke are likely to be the result of the power of suggestion. You can't get high from catching a whiff of someone's joint while walking down the street, but you will feel some effects if you're sitting in an unventilated, enclosed, smoke-filled room, and that is also known as hotboxing.
Love hotboxing.
Hotboxing.
So nice.
Hotboxing. So go in a closet and don't smoke, but go in that closet with someone who wants to smoke, and then you will essentially enjoy the feel of hotboxing.
Nice.
So if you spend a lot of time in a small room with the windows sealed shut, while your friends are smoking a shit ton of weed, your blood and urine might test positive for THC.
Or you go lock yourself in the closet.
And you might feel its effects. But outside, that contact high is really all in your head.
Well, that's good. So when you go to concerts, outdoor concerts, you shouldn't be worried.
You shouldn't worry.
Just enjoy the smell.
Yeah, but I was curious if there were any like old studies on it, and sure enough, back in the mid to late 1980s, they had investigated. Someone had done studies about the mysteries of secondhand smoke, and it was determined that it would be difficult to feel the effects without direct inhalation. So even back then, they were determining that. But while that conclusion still remains, cannabis has changed. So same situation, but now you have this like higher THC, super clean, right? High quality product. So now they're saying that really this whole hotbox theory has to be reevaluated.
Yeah, 100%. We should go test it out right now.
The THC potency of cannabis has increased as cultivation techniques and technologies have advanced. In the early 1970s, the average joint contained roughly 10 milligrams of THC. A joint today could contain 60 to 150 THC or more, right? So the potency, obviously, of today's cannabis flower is far greater than the weed of the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah,
Therefore,
100%.
much of the early research produced from studying secondhand highs may be outdated. As the Johns Hopkins University research study shows, in order to catch a second high, you have to be under extreme conditions and lack proper ventilation. So with that said, cannabis smokers should still be respectful of people who don't consume cannabis. Cannabis users should spark up in a well-ventilated area to ensure passive inhalers will not feel the effects of smoke or test positive for weed. So it is interesting, though, like, you know, we could sit in our yard and we can smoke weed now, but our neighbors might not like it because you actually smell it, but you get to do it. I mean, if you're just like rude and like blowing it in someone's face, it's one thing. But if you're
before you were a smoker, like we'd go out somewhere and you'd smell it. You always enjoyed the smell.
Oh, I love the smell.
Yeah, who didn't?
But it doesn't mean everybody does.
Right. But here's the thing. Why people didn't like the smell? They didn't want to tell people
Well, it was
they
a
enjoyed
drug,
the smell.
right.
Well, the other thing was because they were also afraid if they even just smelt it, they can get the contact high and it would go in their system. So people would freak out. Because I remember being around, like, man, it smells like cannabis or weed, and they're like, oh, I shouldn't sniff it. I might get high. I'm like, it's like a mile. It's like blocks away. You know, it's just the smell. It's a very potent, very aromatic plant, flower, tree. You know. So we love always. I mean, every time we drive, if you're driving down the street and someone's in front of you smoking, you smell like, it smells so good, you know. So I understand, but this is a little better educated. Like we said, educate yourselves, read, look up stuff, learn. But Mrs. WeedMan did a phenomenal job on that to teach you about contact high, and you know what? Don't worry about the contact, just get high. So, hey everybody, want to say thank you for listening. 29,000 of you out there downloading stuff. We appreciate you. Biggest month was last month. Awesome. Appreciate you. We love you. I'd like to thank the state of Alabama for making this show possible today. Thanks, Alabama. Great show.
And I want to say that we surprisingly seem to have a very young audience. We anticipated that most of our listeners would be our age or older. And our statistics show that we've got some, not little kids out there, obviously, but like young adults, 20s and 30s. Thanks. You guys are enjoying us. So, hey, maybe we're relatable because we've got kids that age.
Yeah.
But hey, share with your parents too. Yeah. You know, like this, like a lot of what we're trying to put out there is like breaking the stigma. So if you're a young adult and you smoke weed and you feel like you've got parents who are like, that's bad, you shouldn't do that. Or they just don't understand it. Maybe they're not even opposed to it. They just don't even, you don't even talk about it with them.
We had a great DM from a woman who has a very rare disease. She's been sending us some articles on it. I don't want to mention her name or anything like that. But her husband wasn't a believer in cannabis.
But she knew cannabis helped her.
And he started listening to our show. Now he's a believer in cannabis, and he
supports her use of it for her medicinal purposes. And it's just, share, because there's people out there who cannabis could impact their lives in really positive ways. There's people who just haven't explored the idea of using it recreationally, and maybe there's people out there that need it for other reasons. And just don't really fully understand it. So,
I mean, even internationally, from our friends in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, France, Spain, Portugal. I mean, the list goes on. Japan, China, Russia, to India, Kenya. We're 70th in Kenya. Thanks, South Africa. All over the world. I mean, I just want to say thank you. I mean, so share this with people. If you're a young adult listening to us and you want your parents to learn and we're relatable to them, share it. If you're an
put it on that Bluetooth speaker. They won't even know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be listening like, whoa.
For adults our age that have young adults that they want to share this with, to teach them. If you don't know how to talk about it.
Maybe as a family you want to explore it and you just want to understand it more. Whatever it is.
We thank you all.
We thank you.
I'm humbled that you like us. Miss WeedMan, you got anything else to say?
No, I drank a glass of wine
and
another
one.
I really have to go pee. So, I'm sorry, everybody, but thank you for joining us this week.
We do.
We appreciate you guys.
We love you all.
Keep coming back.
Yep.
We'll keep giving you more.
Try. I swear that Berry White is amazing.
Yeah. I'm ready for more now.
Yeah, me too. We love you all. Thank you for listening. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.